All right, welcome back. I am Lance Ruby, and today we are going to be looking at bad practice versus good practice and how we can have more good practice than bad practice. So contrary to popular belief, I think it is totally okay to be single-minded in your practice. If you are very passionate about one thing, that's what you should dive deep into. In my experience as a guitar teacher and player, I see that, a student will get super laser focused on one thing, and they will get way better at that one thing. And then that thing will lead to other things. So, for example, if I have a student and say this student is, maybe like a metalhead, he loves metal, and we talk about sweep picking, and he gets super into sweep picking and learns like 3 solos that have sweep picking in it. He'll get super into that and super good at that, most likely. And then one day, because of his ability to sweep pick, he'll want to know, what is that? What am I sweeping? Well, we're sweeping arpeggios. And then we can start learning about arpeggios, which will lead us to harmony, which will lead to what chords we're playing over and how to be creative with our arpeggios. So in that example, you can see that instead of reverse engineering that and saying, these are arpeggios, they work over these chords, and this is how we use them, and then there's this technique called sweep picking, and then here's a solo that uses sweep picking, right? Instead of going backwards, we're starting with what we love, right? If I was a metalhead guy and I was super into sweep picking, I would want to learn my favorite solo first and then learn what arpeggios I'm sweeping and what all that means. So it is totally okay to be single-minded in your practice. Focus on what is exciting you and what you really love and what you want in your playing, right? If you really love the blues, it makes no sense to check out the metalhead sweeping we were just talking about. Everybody's path is going to be a little bit different, but everybody's path is correct when we are checking out the things that inspire us. All right, so one thing that I will say about good practicing versus bad practicing is that I see it a lot with my students, and I've definitely been guilty of it myself, of only learning something just enough, right? But really, every one of these topics, every one of these things we're learning, you could spend years on, right? On one topic. If you're working on your scales, you could spend a year only working on scales, and you would be better at scales at the end of that year. Instead of working on something for a week and then giving it up, right? Or moving on, dive deep into things. Good practice is diving deep into fundamental topics. Bad practice is surface level study of a lot of different things. So what am I saying when I'm saying good practice or bad practice? Well, really, we could call it practice and playing. Bad practice is playing the guitar. Now, that sounds weird, but what I mean by that is sort of unstructured noodling, right? And I'm sure we're all guilty of it. It's hard to be a guitar player and not noodle. But all that noodling does is reinforce habits we already have. And that's exactly what we're trying to break when we're practicing. When we're practicing, we are trying to intake. We're trying to get new things into our playing. And when we're noodling, we are essentially just creating a habit out of whatever we're doing. Now, of course, when you're playing with your friends or at a gig or at a jam session, you shouldn't be practicing there. You should be playing. You should be taking the stuff that we're working on in the practice room and showcasing it when you're playing, right? But if your practice routine looks more like what your showcase would be, we have a problem there, right? Our practice should be developmental. We should be learning and adding new stuff. And our playing or our performance should be a showcase of what we're working on, not the other way around. And the biggest thing that I will say is that good practice is focusing on the things that you're not good at. And bad practice is focusing on the things that you're pretty good at. Always focus on things that you struggle on. If you have a strength on the guitar, it shouldn't be a part of your typical practice, right? Essentially, noodling boils down to practicing things we're already good at. And in practice, we should be focusing on things we actually struggle with. I hope you enjoyed that. That was a deep dive into good practice versus bad practice. And really, any practice is better than no practice, right? So even if you're in your head about trying to get good practice versus bad practice, picking up the guitar is better than not picking up the guitar. So I hope that was somewhat inspiring, and I hope that you practice today. So in the next lesson, we are going to be checking out practicing songs. So I'll see you there.